You have eggs, milk, flour, sugar and butter. You have all the ingredients that you need to bake a cake. You've watched and read so much about baking cakes, but you never actually practiced doing it, which meant that the cake that you spent hours researching and learning about, on top of all the baking knowledge that you already have, has turned out horrendous. And I'm sure that in that scenario, you would agree that a much better approach would have been to take all of that knowledge that you already have, and then practice and perfect the methods of baking, and in this case baking a cake. But here you are watching a self-improvement video, while the exact same principle is taking place. The worst self-improvement mistake that you're making is what you're doing right now by watching this video. Building up a mountain of knowledge and theory without doing anything and having no experience in life. Let's put together another scenario. You're on a date with a beautiful woman, and so you would of course want to be attractive and impress her. What do you think you two would be talking about, and what do you think she would ask you? She certainly wouldn't be asking about what you know or how things work. She would be asking you about things that you've done. And if you haven't done anything because you've spent all of your time gaining knowledge and theory, you won't be very interesting. And this can also extend out to friends as well. You become interesting by doing stuff and having stories to tell from it. But the biggest problem comes in here. Since you are on self-improvement, a good guess would be that you're wanting to have more success in YouTube, more success in business, or even just wanting to get your loved ones onto self-improvement as well. And in all of those scenarios, the key thing that you need to have in order to get what you want is influence. And you gain a lot of influence when you have either lived through bad times, have been thriving in the good times, or best case scenario, a mix of both. And that's exactly where life experience comes in, and proves to be infinitely more important than knowledge and theory. And this is exactly why. Because take for example, say that I'm trying to influence you to subscribe to the importance of men being masculine and not being feminine. One method would be to use all of the knowledge and theory that I have and say something like, men biologically need to feel needed. They need to be doing something and be working up towards a big end goal or life mission. And them being masculine perfectly lines up with their biological needs so that they can get what they want from life and feel fulfilled. Sure, that example makes a lot of sense and is very logical, but will that actually make you care about men being masculine and not feminine? Of course you would want men to feel fulfilled, but you wouldn't feel the need to take action. The second method would be to use my life experience and say something like, when I lived as a feminine man, I grew to be incredibly depressed, and it got to the point where I started to contemplate suicide. And when I found out about masculinity, I realized what I should have been living like. And after having followed masculinity for some time, I am the most fulfilled and happiest that I have ever been in life. And although that uses no logic, you care more about men being masculine and not being feminine, because you hear the first-hand story of a man who's lived through it and has nearly killed himself because of it. And this second method is influential because you can either relate to that experience, or you can feel inspired to make a change in the exact same way that I did. And that applies to you too. In the same way that you can gain influence to help and make change in other people's lives, you gaining life experience means that you'll be able to influence your own decisions and actions as well. Because instead of being stuck in a state of inaction, you would start doing and you would feel the consequences and rewards of doing things. So say you take a risk and do something that doesn't turn out very well, you're going to feel the negative emotion from that bad outcome, and it will become much more ingrained in your head to not do that again, rather than if you just knew not to do it. And by the same token, if you did something and it turns out tremendously well, that will also become ingrained in your head because you're going to remember the feeling of euphoria once you did the thing right and got a really nice feeling from it. You do not need as much knowledge and theory as you think that you do. So finish this video and go do the things that you know you need to do.